Hey, what is up everybody, Jordan here. Today we are going over the ability system that just came into Path of Titans yesterday in a very big update that added the abilities and Daspletosaurus. So today I'm going to be going over every single dinosaur's abilities and giving you the entire overview of what each dinosaur has in its current ability system. Now, the ability system is still getting abilities added over time, and I'll be covering these in videos as soon as they drop, so feel free to subscribe to stay tuned for all of them. Other than that, let's get right into this video. The way this works is that I'm going to be going over each dinosaur one by one, talking about what it has in terms of its abilities. Abilities that will get repeated over and over again will be I'll just say the ability itself and then have it on the screen, the description for it, for you guys to pause and watch so you know what each of them have. Bear in mind, each dinosaur has abilities that range in any of these areas: head, sensors, front limb, metabolism, hide, legs, back limb, tail, and voice. So there are quite a few here to go over. However, not every dinosaur has all of them filled out, and some of them don't really have many abilities because the abilities are still a work in progress overall, and we're still going to get more added to the game. That being said, let's start with the carnivores. And let's start with Spinosaurus. So, Spinosaurus has one ability for its head, which is the bite. The bite causes medium damage. Then we move over to its front limb, which is a claw attack, which has high damage overall. For the claw attack, it doesn't do bleed. Then we move to the metabolism. You have three different options here. You have Fisher, which means it can eat meat and fish and has a moderate food drain. Hypercarnivore, which means it can only eat meat, but its food drain is a lot slower. And Scavenger, which means it can eat fish, meat, carrion, shellfish, and bones. The downside to this is that it has fast food and water drain. Now let's move over into the hide of Spinosaurus. You have the standard hide, which has no positive or negative. This is just basic. Then we have Streamlined, which increases swimming speed and turning in the water. However, it decreases the defense of the dinosaur. Finally, we have Thick Scales, which increases defense and turning radius, but reduces the speed of Spinosaurus. We skip out legs and back limb here, and we go into the tail. The first one for the tail is a tail attack. You start with the tail attack. This causes light damage. You can switch the tail attack out for a paddle, which increases swim speed, swim turning radius, and oxygen. However, it is not an attack, so the attack is switched out there. Next up, we have Daspletosaurus. Daspletosaurus has two abilities for its head. You probably know already what these are. You have a basic bite that causes medium damage, and then you have a crushing bite, which is a low damage bite which has a high bone break chance. However, I'm pretty sure the bone break mechanic itself isn't in the game just yet. We skip out sensors and front limbs. I assume these will be coming in the future. However, we have two options for metabolism: hypercarnivore and Scavenger, which means it's pretty much the same as Spinosaurus for hypercarnivore. However, Scavenger cannot eat fish. Skipping out hide, legs, and back limb, we also have two abilities for the tail: a tail attack, which causes light damage, and then balanced, which loses the ability to attack with the tail, however increases the speed of the dinosaur but worsens the turn radius. Coming up next, we have Metriacanthosaurus. Metriacanthosaurus has one ability for the bite. This is the standard venom bite, which is a bite attack that applies venom. We skip out sensors, and then we get the front limb, which is only one, and it's the claw attack, which is a high damage claw attack that doesn't do bleed. Next, we have the metabolism. It doesn't have all three, it only has hypercarnivore, which is the same as Daspletosaurus's hypercarnivore. And then for hide, it has two different hides. It's got the standard hide, which is no positive or negative. Then it has a lightweight hide, which increases the speed but decreases the defense and worse turn radius for the dinosaur. And then the dinosaur also has a tail attack, which causes light damage, which means it has three attacks, two different hide options, and one metabolism option. Next up we have Deinonychus, which is a nice small dinosaur. However, the most important changes for this creature is mainly just a metabolism. It looks like this update, the abilities update, mainly added some attacks for some dinosaurs and metabolism. For the Deinonychus, you have the bite attack for the head, which causes medium damage. Then sensors and front limb are skipped out. I assume front limb or legs will include pounce in the future. Don't quote me on that. However, for metabolism, we have hypercarnivore, which means it can only eat meat, like before. Insectivore, which means it can only eat insects, however, it has a fast food and water drain. And then we have scavenger, which means it can eat meat, fish, carrion, and bones, and has fast food and water drain. The dinosaur is the only dinosaur to have a voice ability. This is the speed buff you all know and love. I covered in one of my previous videos. That's on the screen now. This speed buff is a call that increases the speed of all party members within 30 meters for 40 seconds. Moving on, we have the other raptor, which is Latenavenatrix, which technically isn't a raptor. Yet again, this dinosaur doesn't have many different abilities to go with it. However, it has its bite ability, which causes medium damage. Then we skip out sensors and front limb. We have metabolism next. It's got hypercarnivore and it's got scavenger as its different metabolism. Next, we have the hide. There's only one, and that is the standard hide with no positive or negative effects, and that is Latenavenatrix completed. Let's move into the next batch of carnivores with Concavenator up next. This is probably the biggest for the carnivores in the game so far. It has a bite attack, a standard bite attack, which causes medium damage. Skipping out sensors, we then have the front limb, which has a claw attack, which causes bleed. Balanced, which is no longer an attack but increases the turn radius. And then we have paddle, which is also no longer an attack, however increases the swimming speed, swimming turning radius, and oxygen as well. Moving on to the metabolism, it has hypercarnivore and it also has fisher, which means it can eat fish and shellfish, but it has a faster food drain. Let's move into the hide. The hide, there is standard stats, of course. Then you have streamlined, which increases swimming speed and turning, however decreases the defense. Next up for hide, we have lightweight, which is an increased speed but decreased defense and worse turning radius ability. And that's that for the hide. Moving on into the tail attack, it has a tail attack which causes light damage, and you can also switch that tail attack out for balanced, which loses the ability to attack, it loses the ability to attack but gains increased speed but has a worse turn radius. So you can pretty tune Conker to be a speedy boy without many attacks overall. You could literally have a dinosaur that only has a bite attack for Concavenator. Moving up next, we have Ceratosaurus, which actually has quite a bit and a new ability as well, and some more which are quite unique. The bite for Ceratosaurus is a medium bite. It causes medium damage, however you can swap that out for a headbutt, which is a quick headbutt and can be used by running. For the front limb, you have balanced, which increases the turn radius. You have paddle, increases swim speed, swim turning radius, and oxygen. Then you have a claw attack as well, which causes bleed. For the metabolism, you have three options for Ceratosaurus. You have hypercarnivore, you have scavenger, and you have survivalist, which survivalist greatly reduced hunger and water drain, however your stamina is half. For the hide, you have three different options as well. You have the standard hide, you have thick scales which increase defense and turning radius but reduce the speed, and then you have thin hide which decreased defense but increased movement speed. Then you have two different tail ability options. You have tail attack, which causes light damage. Then you have balance, which loses the ability to attack, however gains increased speed but increases the turn radius. I don't see the benefit there apart from speed, however it is very much balanced out there. Moving up next, out of the medium carnivores, you have Alioramus, which has one head ability, which is the bite, causes medium damage. Moving over into metabolism, you only have hypercarnivore for the metabolism, and then going into hide, you have three different options. You have the standard, you have the thin hide, and a new one which is dense feathers, which increases defense but slower speed overall. Then we move to the tail. There is the tail attack, which causes light damage. Then you have Counterbalance, which loses the ability to attack, however you gain increased speed and a worse turn radius overall, so just like the balance abilities. The final two carnivores come in next. You have Suchomimus and you have Sarcosuchus. However, these are both rather different and have some slight differences. Suchomimus has a standard medium damage bite attack, and then it has a claw attack as well, which is a high damage claw attack. It doesn't do bleed. For the metabolism, you have Fisher and you have Hyper Carnivore, and for the hide, you have Standard, then you have Streamlined, and then you have a Lightweight as well for the hide. For the tail, you have the basic tail attack as well. Moving on here, we go into the final carnivore, which is Sarcosuchus, which has the standard medium damage bite attack for the head, and also has the brand new ripping bite, which is an attack that causes heavy bleed damage. For metabolism, Sarcosuchus has Fisher, Hyper Carnivore, and Scavenger, which are all pretty good metabolism features and gives you a lot of variety. For the hide, you have standard hide, you have fixed scales, and you have thin hide as well, which is a nice difference to Suchomimus and Spinosaurus overall. That being said, that marks the end of everything for Sarcosuchus in this overview. And that also marks the end of all of the carnivores in this overview so far. Of course, I'm not covering modded dinosaurs because I'd be here forever and a day. However, I'm also not including Allosaurus because it's not out yet and I can't see its abilities overall. Let me know your thoughts on these abilities for the dinosaurs. Bear in mind, a lot more are still to come. Most dinosaurs don't have a voice ability yet, sensors, legs, and back limb yet, so bear in mind those are going to be coming. We could be seeing more head attacks as well for each carnivore too. Moving on, we have all of the herbivores in the game so far, all the playable herbivores. This excludes Triceratops, Barsboldia, and all the modded dinosaurs that are out currently. Let's start with the Struthiomimus here, which has one ability for the head, which is a bite, causes medium damage. Since sensors and front limb are skipped, metabolism, it has 3. It has herbivore, which is allowing it to eat berries and fruit, moderate food drain however for that. Then we have insectivore, which allows it to eat only insects, which gives it a fast food and water drain. And then you have forager, which allows it to eat flowers, nuts, roots, and fruit. However, this has the fastest food drain out of all of them. For the hide, it has the standard hide, and then it has lightweight, which increases the speed at the loss of turn radius and defense. Then you have dense feathers as well, which increases defense at the cost of speed. For back limb, you have a second attack, which is a kick attack. However, it requires slow movement for it to be used. That's it for Struthiomimus. Let's move into the other small herbivore, which is Camptosaurus. Campto has one head ability, which is the bite attack that causes medium damage. It has 3 different metabolism features. One of them is new compared to the Struthio. We have forager, we have herbivore, and then we have fat reserves. Fat reserves allows the dinosaur to eat berries and fruit. However, it decreases hunger and thirst depletion rate, but increases maximum food and water amount. However, it decreases max stamina and stamina recovery rate. And then we move into the hide for the creature with the standard hide, lightweight, and thick scales as well. And then for the tail, we have one tail attack, which causes light damage. Coming up next, we have the Ceratopsians, starting off with Albertaceratops, which has quite a few different abilities here. 3 different head ones. You have Headbutt, which is a quick headbutt attack, can be used while running. This is the standard one. We have a bite attack now for the Albertaceratops. This causes bleed, and it has a head slam. I assume this does more damage than the headbutt. Moving into the front limb, we have Balanced, which has no attack, however increases the turning radius. Then you have Stomp, which is a new attack. A heavy stomp with front feet, does quite a bit of damage, kind of like the back kick. Moving up next, we have the metabolism. You have forager, herbivore, and fat reserves, which are all for Albertaceratops. For the hide, you have standard, and then you have thick scales as well. And then for the legs, you have the charge, which you all know and love. Here we have next the Styracosaurus, which has one head ability, which is a headbutt, same as the Albertaceratops headbutt. Then we move into metabolism, the same as Albertaceratops here with forager, herbivore, and fat reserves. Moving into hide, there is only standard. And then for back limb, there is the kick attack, which is a rear kick and can only be done during slow movement. Kentrosaurus is next, which has a headbutt attack for the head, and that's it. Can be used when running as well. For metabolism, it's the same as the other herbivores, with forager, herbivore, and fat reserves being the metabolism features. And then for hide, there is standard, thick scales, and thin hide as well, which are all the same as the other dinosaurs. For the tail, we have a tail attack which causes heavy bleed damage. Next up, the Stegosaurus, which has a head attack which is a bite that causes medium damage. Skipping out sensors and front limb, there is metabolism now, which has forager, herbivore, and fat reserves. And then for the hide, you only have the standard hide, and for tail, you only have the tail attack, which causes heavy bleed damage like Kentrosaurus. Very similar to Kentrosaurus, of course. Stego is just more beefier overall. Lambeosaurus is probably the worst off in this update. It literally has no options that you can go with. However, for the bite, it has its standard bite attack for its head, and then for the metabolism, it has herbivore. For the hide, it has standard, and then of course for tail, it has its tail attack, which causes light damage as well. Overall, Lambeo will probably get some more abilities in the near future. However, let's move to Iguanodon, which for the head has a bite which causes medium damage. It has its stab, that is a front limb attack that does heavy bleed damage. Then for metabolism, you have forager, herbivore, and fat reserves once again. For hide, you have standard hide, lightweight hide, and thick scales. And then for tail, you have a tail attack which causes light damage as well. Rounding things off here, you have Deinocheirus finally, which has one head ability, which is a bite, which causes medium damage. Skipping out sensors, there is the front limbs, which is the claw attack, which causes high bleed damage. Then for metabolism, you have fisher, which means it can only eat fish and has moderate food drain. Herbivore and fat reserves as well go along with that. Then for the hide, you have standard, dense feathers, which increases defense at the cost of speed, and then you have streamlined, which increased swimming speed and turning, however defense is decreased. Finally, for Deinocheirus, you have the tail attack, which causes light damage. That's it for all of the herbivores and their abilities so far in the update. Bear in mind, more abilities will be coming. However, there is a nice amount of abilities here that we can mess around with for now, which is very nice. And that is that, everybody, the complete roundup of this brand new Path of Titans abilities update. Every ability that's in the game so far. Bear in mind, as soon as a new ability drops for a video, I'll make a small update video covering that ability. So if you are new to the channel, stick around, subscribe for that, because I'll be keeping you up to date with everything Path of Titans and dinosaur game news worthy. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day. Peace.